is close. Well, hey, if you have a copy of your scriptures with me, Luke 23, and don't check the master score. I know it's going to be tough. I'm like already thinking, what happened between me being out there and me being in here? But it's going to be an amazing night. Luke 23, I'm going to read several verses, and then we'll jump in. Luke says this in verse 1. Then the whole assembly rose and led him off to Pilate. And they began to accuse him, saying, "We have found this man subverting our nation. He opposes payments of taxes to Caesar and claims to be Messiah, a king." So Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "You have said so," Jesus replied. Then Pilate announced to the chief priests and the crowd, "I find no basis for a charge against this man." There's our series right there, this man. But they insisted, "He stirs up people all over Judea by his teaching. He started in Galilee and has come all the way here." And on hearing this, Pilate asked if the man was a Galilean. And when he heard that Jesus was under Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him to Herod, who was also in Jerusalem at the time. When Herod saw Jesus, he was greatly pleased, because for a long time he had been wanting to see him. From what he had heard about him, he had hoped to see him perform a sign of some sort. He plied him with many questions, but Jesus gave no answer. The chief priests and the teachers of the law were standing there vehemently accusing him. Then Herod and his soldiers ridiculed and mocked him. Dressing him in an elegant robe, they sent him back to Pilate. That day, Herod and Pilate became friends. Before this, they had been enemies. Don't miss this verse. Pilate called together the chief priests and the rulers and the people and said to them, "You have brought me this man as one who is inciting the people to rebellion. I have examined him in your presence and have found no basis for your charges against him. Neither has Herod, for he sent him back to us, as you can see. He has done nothing to deserve death. Therefore, I will punish him and then release him." But the whole crowd shouted, "Away with this man. Release Barabbas to us." Barabbas had been thrown into prison for an insurrection in the city and for murder. Wanting to release Jesus, Pilate appealed to them again, but they kept shouting, "Crucify him, crucify him." And for the third time he spoke to them, "Why? What crime has this man committed? I have found in him no grounds for the death penalty. Therefore I will have him punished and then release him." But with loud shouts, they insistently demanded that he be crucified, and the shouts prevailed. So Pilate decided to grant their demand, and he released the man who had been thrown into prison for insurrection and murder, the one they asked for, and Jesus surrendered to their will. And so, Father, I just pray for our time together. Father, I just feel such a burden for this message tonight, because this is the central point of history, and I know that every person in this room has probably heard the story of the cross in some form or fashion hundreds, thousands of times. But Father, there is no more important message. And Father, I pray tonight that it wouldn't just be information for our head, but it would set fire to our hearts, that we would live differently as a result of thinking about your word. Please, Jesus, help us in that. We want to see you clearly. We want to lift you up, and we want to look differently as a result. And so, Lord, we set our mind's attention on you. Stir our heart's affection and send our hands into action. In Jesus' name, amen. So we're celebrating Palm Sunday today, which is the Sunday that Jesus went into Jerusalem. He was heralded as a king, but Jesus knew that even though he was praised as a king on Palm Sunday, he knew that when he went to Jerusalem, that eventually it was going to lead to his death. And so Jesus makes a very intentional decision when he goes to Jerusalem. He knows exactly what's going to happen, and yet he walks into the city of Jerusalem nonetheless. Check this out in Luke 18, a few chapters before this, in verse 31. Jesus took the 12 aside and told them, "We are going up to Jerusalem, and everything that is written by the prophets about the Son of Man will be fulfilled, and he will be delivered over to the Gentiles. They will mock him, insult him, and spit on him, and they will flog him and kill him. And on the third day, he will rise again." And so Jesus knew every single thing that was going to happen. He was in perfect control of the situation. And yet, motivated by love, he goes into Jerusalem knowing what is going to happen. And my hope tonight is that you would feel the tension of the gravity of the cross. In this series, Who is This Man? We've been looking at who Jesus is. looking at this phrase, this man, in the Gospel of Luke. And we've looked at the paralytic who was forgiven and healed. Who is this man that forgives sins? We looked at Luke chapter 8 where it says, who is this man to you? Like, who do you believe Jesus to be? Do you believe that he's the Messiah? We looked at Luke 15 last week, or 2 weeks ago, where it said, who is this man that welcomes sinners? And my hope is that as we've been studying the book of Luke, if you read the whole book, you're like, Jesus, he's a miracle worker. He's the Son of God. He's lived the perfect life. He is like no man that's ever lived because he's God in human form. And I want you to feel the tension of this man? This man is going to the cross? This man is about to be brutally tortured, betrayed, handed over, and given over to death on a cross? I think so many of us take for granted the fact that Jesus died on a cross. Oh, of course he died for me. I'm a pretty good person. Oh, of course he died for me. I've just kind of always heard it. Oh, of course he died for me. For the Bible tells me so. And we miss the gravity of this man dying for us. And it is a shame when beautiful things lose their wonder. I know I was just at Augusta National. Shout out Grandma on your lottery luck. I think they gave her the 86-year-old, come on, we gotta make this happen, And so got to be at Augusta National. And imagine being there every year. I hope the people who go every year do not get tired of its beauty. It is ridiculously beautiful. Like, I hope every time they go, they're like, yep, this is it. This is crazy. Some of y'all, I see the vacations you're going on in spring break. You guys are going to some bougie vacations. And I hope that you are not forgetting how beautiful the places that you're going. It's a shame when beautiful things kind of lose their luster. And my worry is that the familiarity with the knowledge of the gospel has led to a disenchantment with the gospel. That the gospel is explained, but not experienced. It's believed, but not beloved. The gospel is accessible. You go to a Christian school, but it's not adored. The gospel is declared. You hear it all the time, but it's not desired. It's familiar, but it's not feared. You don't hold it into reverence. It's studied, but not savored. The gospel is heard, but not held. It's preached, but not pondered. And I don't want to be a ministry like that. I want to be a ministry that when we hear the gospel, our minds are blown. Our hearts beat a little faster because we're like, this is the greatest news I've ever seen. This man goes to a cross for me. Are you kidding me? The gospel never loses its beauty. It's always been beautiful. It's you and me who get our eyes off the gospel and our hearts grow cold. And so what I want to do is look at the gospel so that we can be in awe of it and it can change how we live, because the gospel isn't a story to know about. It's a wonder to continually return to. I've been on a lot of dates with my wife, but holla, and she just looks more and more beautiful every date. Oh, there we go. I've been to the Grand Canyon several times, and let me just tell you that every other time I go there, it continually blows my mind. It gets better and better. Georgia won one national championship, but let me be honest, number 2 hit different. It gets better and better. Don't worry, Florida, you'll win in a real sport. Basketball is cool. Football, I know you wish you could trade that, but hey, I'll give it to you. Maybe you'll win a bowl game this year, it'll be awesome. But these beautiful things, they get better and better, and that's how the gospel is supposed to be. It's a marvel, it's a wonder to return to. That's why David in Psalm 51, he prays, restore to me the joy of my salvation. And so what I want to look at tonight is 3 parts of the gospel that we need to behold. To behold is to look at something deeply and intentionally, so it is thinking about it. But to behold something is to look at something deeply, intentionally with awe and wonder. And that's what I want to do tonight. I want to look at 3 aspects of the gospel, and I want us to marvel at them. And the first thing I want you to behold is this. I want you to behold the perfection he lived. Behold the perfection that Jesus lived. Have any of y'all ever gotten in trouble for something that you just did not do? Oh, some of y'all are like, trouble? Yep, that's me. You're like, you raised your hand a little too quick. Kind of freaked me out. But you ever gotten in trouble for something that you just didn't do at all? I remember in middle school, I had to take chorus because our school was like that. I don't know, 4 very slow years of my life. And I was kind of sitting back. It was all the girls up by the piano. They were singing their soprano, their alto, whatever, probably sounding amazing. I was back there just chilling, just trying to get through the class period. And out of nowhere, my chorus teacher's like, Drew, which is my brother's name, who had quite the reputation for troublemaking. And so I think she was presuming on me. She said, Drew, detention. And I was like, what are you talking about? I wasn't even doing anything. And then the girl in front of me goes, oh, no, he wasn't talking. That was me. I think you heard me. And the teacher went, no, I didn't. It was him. And I was like, I'm just standing here. I didn't even talk. She said I didn't talk. She said it was her. And you called me by the wrong name. I do not get a detention. And yet, where did I find myself on Friday morning? I found myself in detention. And it just makes my blood boil. When you're innocent, but you receive the injustice of getting in trouble. And what I want us to feel in this text is Jesus, it's emphasized over and over and over again. He's innocent. He lived a perfect life. If there was ever anyone innocent, if there was ever someone who did not deserve a cross, it was Jesus. And so we see Pilate, they first bring the religious leaders in the crowd, they bring Jesus to him, and a bunch of false charges come up. First, they say, he doesn't pay taxes to Caesar, which is twisting Jesus' words. He says, give to Caesar what is Caesar, and God what is God. So they twist his words. Then they say he wants to lead some kind of political revolution, but actually what he says is, my kingdom's not of this earth, my kingdom is of heaven. So they're trying to make an innocent man look guilty, but even Pilate sees right through it in verse 4. He says, Pilate announced to the chief priests in the crowd, I find no basis for a charge against this man. So then they send him off to Herod. Herod, at first, just wanted to see some miracles, but Jesus stands there silent. And eventually they start getting frustrated. They start mocking him, ridiculing him, and they send him back to Pilate. And Pilate, again, gets them all together and says, you brought me this man as one who is inciting the people to rebellion. I have examined him in your presence, and I have found no basis for your charges against him. Neither has Herod, for he sent him back to us, as you can see. He has done nothing to deserve death. And so Jesus is being accused, even though he's innocent. And if you're like me, I think that should create a little anger when you read this story. If you're reading it right, I think it's supposed to. Because no one has lived a perfect life like Jesus. No one other than him is without sin. No one is actually good on this earth except for him. And I see him there being accused, and part of me, I'm reading the story and I want to blurt out, Lord, defend yourself. Lord, I love you. Like say something. And he stands there, silent. He doesn't protest. He doesn't give a defense. And I think the reason why he does this is because Jesus realizes that by not defending himself, he's defending you. He's defending us. Jesus knows that he has to stand accused so we can stand forgiven. He had to be bound so that we could be free. He had to be pierced so that we could be healed. He had to bear shame so that we could wear grace. And he had to die like a criminal so that you and me could be children of God. He was innocent. He was perfect. That's what Hebrews 4:15 says. He says, we do not have a high priest who's unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who's been tempted in every way just as we were, yet he did not sin. This is such good news that I do not want you to miss, that Jesus was without sin. Because if Jesus sinned, you are not saved. If he sinned, he's not an acceptable sacrifice. He can't stand on the cross and say, it is finished. Why? Because he's not sinless. He's not the spotless lamb. But look what 1 Peter says in 1 Peter 1:18. He says, you were redeemed. How? Verse 19. With the precious blood of Christ, a lamb without blemish or defect. He was without sin. And so I want you this week to look at, yes, the death of Jesus. Yes, the resurrection of Jesus. But look at the life of Jesus. He was perfect. Behold the perfection that he lived, because it made him an acceptable sacrifice before God. And the innocent man became guilty so that the guilty, you and me, could be innocent. This is what Tim Keller says about that. He says, Jesus lived the life we should have lived, and he died the death we should have died. Behold the perfection that he lived. Number 2, behold the rejection he faced. Behold the rejection he faced. Check out verse 18. It says, but the whole crowd shouted, away with this man. Release Barabbas to us. Barabbas had been thrown into prison. Why? For an insurrection in the city and for murder. And wanting to release Jesus, Pilate appealed to them again. But they kept shouting, crucify him. Crucify him. And for the third time, Pilate spoke to them. Why? What crime has this man committed? I have found in him no grounds for the death penalty. Therefore, I will have him punished and then release him. But with loud shouts, they insistently demanded that he be crucified. And their shouts prevailed. In our house right now, we are dealing with a little bit of conflict because we have a dog named Camper. And we have a picture right there. I think we have a picture of him. Jonathan has cute pictures of his girls. All we have is a dog, so we'll take him. That is Camper. That is my wife's dog. She got Camper in college. And so Savannah literally raised this dog from puppy to now. And I'm a little newer on the scene. I've kind of, Camper moved in with us, 8 months ago. He was away for a little bit, and now he's returned. And there's been a little conflict because Camper likes me more. Sav is saying it's fake news, but I don't know. I've seen her get a little hurt by it. Where she's like, we'll call out like, Camper, come here. And he'll come to me and not her. At night, he'll come snuggle up next to me. And look, you can see my sweet wife's face is a little sad right now. Why? It's understandable. On part of me, I love it because I'm like, ha. On the other hand, I'm like, come on, Camper. This woman literally raised you from birth. Have a little gratitude. And Savannah was literally there from the beginning, and yet the rejection hurts. And I think this is a little bit of what's happening in this story. God is on trial right now. Jesus, fully God and fully man, is on trial. And it's his creation, the one he knew before the foundation of the earth. And the creation in the crowd and the religious leaders, they shouted out, we don't want him. We want Barabbas. We don't want the creator. We don't want him. Give us the sinner. And they reject God. That's crazy. The creator is rejected by the creation. And even Pilate, who's a godless pagan Roman leader, says, what are you doing? Don't kill this guy. That's why Isaiah 53 says, speaking of Jesus, he was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. Like one from whom people hide their faces, he was despised, and we held him in low esteem. The crowds and the religious leaders, they cry out, crucify him, crucify him, crucify him. And what I want you to see that I think is important this Easter week, this Holy Week, is that you and me were in that crowd too. No, it just wasn't those people who were there that day. It was you and it was me. That we rejected God. Why? Because sin is at its very heart. Anything that is a rejection of God, that's what the very first sin was. God, I don't want you. I want to go my own way. God, I want to be my own God. And so whenever we sin, we're the ones nailing the nails through his wrist. We are joining the crowd saying, yeah, crucify him. Martin Luther says it this way. He says, we all carry in our pockets the very nails that are pierced through his wrist. That's the wages of sin. And I think it's important to understand the gospel. We need to behold the reality of our sin. Because if you don't have a big view of your sin, the cross isn't going to be that big of a deal. If you don't see yourself as needing that much saving, he's not going to be that good of a savior. If you see your sin is small, the cross will be small. And our rejection of Jesus, it put him on that cross. But our acceptance of Jesus will put Jesus' righteousness on us. That's why I love that song we just sang. I'll never know how much it costs to see my sin upon that cross. It's good to think about the depths of our sin because we see how far he came to save us. Behold the rejection that Jesus faced. Number 3, and we're closing here. Behold the exchange that Jesus made. Behold the exchange he made. Check this out in verse 23. But with loud shouts, they insistently demanded that he be crucified, and their shouts prevailed. So Pilate decided to grant their demand, and he released the man who had been thrown into prison for insurrection and murder, the one they asked for, and surrendered Jesus to their will. This is such a lopsided trade. Jesus for Barabbas? I can't think of a trade worse than that. There's some bad trades in history. Boston Red Sox. They traded Babe Ruth for $100,000. Bad trade. Hornets traded Kobe Bryant to the Lakers for Vlad Divac. Pesh, do you even know who that is? You know him. Is he even good? That hurts my illustration, so he was really bad at basketball. The middle schoolers didn't know who he was. They were like, yeah, Vlad Divac, who is that? He's not Kobe Bryant. Pesh, NBA master, bad trade. Bad trade, thank you very much. Let's try something else. Russia traded us Alaska for 2 cents an acre. What losers, come on. Bad trade. Lopsided trade, and I think, man, we are benefactors of a great exchange. Jesus, the Son of God, traded for Barabbas, the criminals of criminals. There was a tradition in this day that on Passover, on a religious ceremony, that they would release a criminal back into the community. And so Pilate thinks, oh, cool, we've got an easy out here. We got Jesus, miracle worker, never sinned, good guy, teacher, pretty mild-mannered, and we've got a literal murderer that's going to be a threat to your safety if we release him. Who do you want? And they say, we don't want Jesus. Give us Barabbas. And there's a trade. And to be crucified in the Roman world was the cruelest form of torture. It was reserved for criminals, leaders of revolutions and murderers. And that is kind of understandable and justifiable for Barabbas. There was 3 crosses on that Good Friday. There was a murderer on Jesus' left and a murderer on his right. And that middle cross, it should have been Barabbas. Another murderer, another sinner of sinners. But what happens here, and don't miss this, is Jesus is traded for Barabbas. Why? Because God treats his son like a criminal. So the criminal could have a chance to become God's son. And isn't that the gospel? Those of us who are far off, who are sinners, Jesus is treated like a sinner so that we could be children of God. That's what 2 Corinthians 5:21, look at this great exchange right here. God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him, what do we get? We might become the righteousness of God. There's a trade. Jesus takes our sin, we take his righteousness. So now I have right relationship with God. I get holiness. I get perfection in the eyes of God. I get to have open access to him. I get all of the benefits of sonship, of being a child of God. Why? Because Jesus took my place. There was a trade. And what I want you to see is that you and I are Barabbas. Yes, we're the ones in the crowd shouting, crucify him, crucify him, crucify him. But we're also the ones on that platform who should have been condemned. But Jesus stands in our place. We are guilty, but Jesus steps in so that we, like Barabbas, could go free. How does Jesus do this? How does he do this for us? He dies on a cross. Tortured, takes that middle cross for us. Why? Because he's motivated by unconditional love. I remember in college, I was in the library with some friends doing some homework. I maybe told this story in here before. And we get a text on our phones, text you don't want to get, that says active shooter on campus. So we're like, shoot, okay, like what do we do? Like, let's close the door. Like we got down on the ground, like the glass window. I'm like, I don't really know what that's gonna do. We all get down, and my friend, Colton, calls his dad and is like, hey, here's what's going on. We got a text that there's an active shooter. Like, I just want to say I love you and this is what's going on, but I think hopefully we'll be okay. And we could hear his dad on the phone, ex-military, and he said, son, I love you. You know how I raised you. Do what you have to do. And we're like, and he hangs up the phone, and our friend Colton says, guys, if that shooter comes up here, I'm willing to die for you. Get behind me, I'm going after him. And we're all like, okay, I'm so scared, like freaking out. Long story short, I know y'all want to know how the story is resolved. It was a false text. Someone probably got fired that day. It was supposed to be a warning. Yeah, so everything was okay. But do you think I ever questioned if Colton loved me and cared for me? No. Colton was ready to die for me. My friend, John 15:13 says, greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. And so Jesus on the cross offers unconditional love. It's available to everyone. The great exchange is possible where he takes your sin and you take his righteousness. But unconditional love still must be received. Barabbas, I don't think he ever became a true believer. The text doesn't say that, but he experienced it in a small sense. Key went in, and shackles were left behind, and he got to walk free. And you and I have received unconditional love. Jesus has died in our place, but you have to receive it. And let Easter be this time. For anyone in the room who hasn't put their faith in Jesus, maybe tonight in family group would be the time to do that. Hey, I'm hearing that, and I'm not sure I've ever really got the gospel before. I want to put my faith in Jesus. For others of you, it would be a shame if Easter went by and it was just a holiday and you went to church and then you went to lunch with your family and you didn't take any moment to be amazed at the fact that God loves you so much that he sent his only son to die for you. What a shame if Easter goes by and you stay in the shackles and your chains and you don't walk free when Jesus said, I took your place. I became guilty. You're innocent. Walk free. Walk in the life that you're meant to live. What a shame that would be. And so what I want to talk about in group is really two questions. Have you received the grace of God? Have you put your faith in him? Has that great exchange happened? It's received by faith. Unconditional love must be received. And two, if you've already put your faith in Jesus, is this gospel beautiful to you? Or is it just something you think about? Is it just something you just believe? Or does it actually change how you live? And so Jesus, thank you.